Hello and welcome back to another episode of Raffles Local Farmer Everyday Chef. I'm here with Carol Tashie today from Radical Roots Farm in Rutland.
Yes. Hi,
Thanks
Grace.
for coming.
Thanks for inviting me.
So today Carol's going to be making some quick and easy vegetable kebabs. We're not going to focus so much on a recipe. We're just going to focus on delicious vegetables and a very quick marinade. Talk about different ways you can make marinades. So we've got some in our magical oven right now baking that we'll bring out, and we can just start chopping.
Yes, I grew up with Julia Child and the Galloping Gourmet, so when we're all done here, we'll magically take out some that's done. So Grace has indulged me, and when Grace asked me if I would do this, I said, well, farmers don't really cook a lot in the summer, but I will show you a quick and easy meal that we make in our family. And so it is going to be veggie kebabs or veggie skewers. I will let you know I'm going to use some of the vegetables that are available on the farm today, which is early August. It is. But no matter what the season, you'll be able to do this with spring vegetables, summer vegetables, fall vegetables, winter vegetables. Yum. So we will begin. So first things first, we're going to be using some wooden skewers. My preference is metal skewers because I don't like things that get thrown away. But if you are going to use wooden skewers, which we are, I had them soaking in warm water for a few minutes, and that will prevent them from splintering. Yep. And so we're just going to start, and I'm going to tell you a few things about what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with, actually, I'll start with the fun vegetable. So these vegetables are called patty pan squash, as you know. And patty pans are a type of summer squash that you can use pretty much any way you use zucchini or summer squash. Zucchini or summer squash.
It looks like they're going to be cut differently though.
Yeah, they are. So let me just say before, as I'm going to start cutting, but I'm going to tell you that when you make a vegetable kebab or a meat kebab, or adding meat to it, or fish or shrimp, you can certainly build your skewers that have one of everything on there, and then you have this beautiful skewer that has a pepper, an onion, a tomato. I don't do it that way because everything cooks at a different speed. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a squash kebab, a zucchini kebab, an onion kebab, and then when we cook them, they'll actually be done, nothing burns.
Perfect.
Usually the tomatoes fall apart when you put them all together. So
sounds tasty too.
Yeah, it is. So this is a patty pan squash. We're just going to cut the top off, and we're going to cut the little blossom end off at the bottom. So you can see we're not really losing very much. We're going to cut it in half first time. And
you do the same cut with the big one that might be seedier?
Yeah, the big one's not really seedy. I probably would use this size for what we're doing. I brought this one because I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. So you'd probably want to do something, more around this side for the recipe that we're using. Feel free to use this. It doesn't get real seedy. This is great for putting on the grill, for stuffing, but that's a different recipe. We won't go there.
Next August.
Yeah, exactly. So I cut it in half. I'm going to cut it in half this way and cut it in half that way. Really fancy.
So in 4 pieces, basically.
Yeah, so there'll be 8 pieces all together.
All right.
Right? Again, you can cut them smaller, you can cut them bigger. I am not a recipe person. I'm really big at what do you have in the refrigerator? What do you feel like using? What do you want to cook at that point in time? So you can cut them, about this size. We're not going to marinate them to the end, but I'm going to put one skewer together. Maybe you can help me make the marinade.
All right.
And we'll talk about that, and then we'll brush them with that. So these have been soaking, which means in theory they should not split.
And you don't have to soak metal ones.
You don't need to soak metal ones.
Maintenance.
Exactly. Okay. And when I say split, sometimes they splinter. Yeah. And you just want to be a little careful. So really high tech here, folks. Take this in one hand, this in the other hand, and go through the center. And I always leave myself a little bit on either end so that when I put them in the oven and I won't go to turn them, lo and behold, I have a handle.
Nice.
So I'm going to just build this. You can see how careful I'm being, right?
And leaving airspace in between.
So in theory, you're supposed to leave space. What I find is when I'm in a rush, I squeeze them in really tight because I want to get as many onto the skewer as possible. I only have a few metal skewers at home, so
you got to do what you got to do.
I try to do what I have to do, exactly. So a little bit of space would be nice. The marinade would go in there, but that's basically That's it. Talk about easy, right? Rather than just putting it on a baking sheet, I'm going to be a little bit wasteful and use some parchment paper. And this is parchment paper from the Co-op. It's the brand If You Care, so it's recycled, it's not made with petroleum at all, it's a really good brand. And if you put that on there, you'll see that when we go to marinate it, we're going to be using butter, or you can use oil, but we're going to use butter.
Okay.
And when it drips, it gets really hard
Butter
to
is
clean.
really hard to clean.
Really hard to clean. So all we're going to do is we're going to take one of our skewers. We're going to just today, I think, make one of each kind of vegetable, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
And we're going to put it on there.
Great.
Now, while we're doing that,
Yep.
let's start making some marinade.
Move over here.
I'm going to tell you that the marinade that we're going to use, this is some Plu Family Farm butter.
It's
It's
beautiful.
absolutely wonderful. It's grass-fed beef. Patty Plu is at the farmer's market on Saturday. They also have a farm stand. They're absolutely...
She's in Mount Holly?
She is in Mount Holly.
And that's where the farm stand is?
It is. And so we're going to put a little bit of this butter in here.
Wow.
Not a lot. And then I will tell you that you can use pretty much anything as a marinade. Anything, especially if it has some fat in it. So if you wanted to do a marinade with olive oil, if you wanted to do a marinade with coconut oil, you could. But this is going to be a completely localvore meal, right? Nothing that we're going to use, with the exception of salt and pepper, are things that are grown outside of not only Vermont, but like within our little 10-mile radius
It's a
in Rutland County.
hyper-local.
Super local. Okay, so actually with
Oh,
the
this is from
exception,
Chester.
right, actually that's not so far away. Okay, so will you tell them about the
Yeah, so this is just some Stewbird stock from Chester, Vermont at Jersey Girls Farm. They grow veal, they do a lot of dairy products, and we're just putting in some of their chicken stock in with this butter. And this I just got on Raffles Farm Fresh Connect website. It's the online local food marketplace that has different delivery drop sites around Rutland. And this came frozen, so you could even pour it off and refreeze it, whatever portions you want.
Great. So will you get that
Yeah, what temperature?
just very, very low? So you just want the butter to melt and the stock to get warm.
Great.
And then if you come over here, what I'm doing, so I started doing it without the camera being on me because I am not the best garlic chopper in the world.
Oh.
And I thought rather than you seeing my awkward way of doing it, let me say to you, I'm a farmer, not a chef. And so I don't necessarily have all the fancy skills. I love it when I meet up with like Donald Billings from Roots and he shows me how he, chops really fast. That's not me. So I am just going to show you that, I'm cutting up some garlic, I'm peeling it. This is fresh garlic because it's that time of year, so it's very easy to peel.
How long has that been cured?
That has only been cured since mid-July.
So does it taste more garlicky now, or do you think it tastes more garlicky longer later in the season?
It actually gets stronger as it dries.
Oh.
Okay. And then since I'm not a great chopper, I bought this really handy dandy vegetable chopper. A garlic chopper. You can actually use it for nuts as well. And I throw the garlic cloves in there. Let me tell you, it works better if you cut them in half.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Help it along.
See, I almost cut my finger off on that. Okay. And then you do a little fancy dancy.
I almost want to shake my hips to the sound of that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then will you throw that in there?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just take that little top off.
All right.
Now we're going to cheat a moment here, and we're going to add what's in this mason jar. So I forgot the basil. So what the marinade was going to include was butter, local chicken stock or turkey stock or whatever it might be, local garlic, and local basil. So I forgot the basil at home, but I have a little bit of basil left in this one that I made earlier, so we're just going to throw that in there.
Okay.
Okay, so that's going to be really nicely garlicky.
Yeah,
and
that already smells good.
yeah. So we're just going to let that simmer, and it's going to just let the flavors meld. The butter will melt. You can probably turn it up a little bit if you wanted to. Just maybe keep an eye on it. And what we want is, since it's a marinade, we want the chicken stock and the butter to be infused with the flavor of the garlic and the basil.
Nice.
Okay. We can certainly throw in a little bit of salt and pepper if you want
Yeah.
to taste, just whatever you might want. You can make a marinade with any kind of herbs. Don't feel like, oh, I don't have basil, but I have chives in my garden, or I have oregano. Use anything you want. And if it's not fresh herb season, just go to the co-op and get some dried herbs.
Nice.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's going to be simmering and kind of building its flavor. And I wish we could, all of you at home could smell it. And
Yeah,
we're
it does
going
smell
to
it.
chop a few more vegetables. So let's
Buttery,
continue
garlicky.
along the squash. And I just picked a, fairly good sized zucchini.
So you don't need to have little ones for the zucchini.
So I have a bias against little zucchini.
Ooh.
I think they're quite
Controversy.
silly. Maybe because I'm the farmer and to pick it this big seems awfully silly. I will say to you when this big is fine. I will say to you when the restaurants buy our zucchini, which they buy quite a bit, they want this size or bigger. So the idea that small is better, I don't know where that came from actually. I think that's like that, those baby vegetables seem so highly prized. But
Oh, yeah.
with zucchini, your baby, like this is a smallish yellow squash, and it's starting to get a little soft.
Yes,
It's
it
been a
is,
couple
yeah.
of days old.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So again, this one, real fancy. I'm going to cut these into slices. And I don't know, what would you say? This is a 1/2 inch slice or so?
Yeah,
maybe?
that sounds good.
Okay. So somewhere around
Medium
there.
thickness.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see I am not measuring. I am not doing anything fancy here. I am trying very hard to keep my fingers like
Yeah, I
this.
was going to say, you are
because
doing one important thing.
I do have a tendency to cut myself when I
Oh,
when
really?
I chop something like this because I'm going too fast.
Okay.
Or I'm not paying attention. So I've learned to hold my fingers like this. So if I get it, it slices or it moves along this side of my knuckle
Yeah.
as opposed to my finger.
And that's been helping?
That's been helping. So again, we're going to take one of these skewers
Yep.
and real high tech, we're going to just start putting them on. Now you might find sometimes when you do this that the vegetable does crack. I'm going to just do one, okay? I'm going to go like this and go, oops, I cracked it, right? Don't worry about it. Put it aside and use it for something else. Or if you really wanted to, go along the edge. Might be a little harder to do along the edge.
What would you use that for if you did just have the one piece?
That little piece, what would I use it for? So it would go in my salad. It would go in my eggs in the morning. Pretty much could go into anything.
Yum.
Worst comes to worst, if I really just wrote it, it could go into my compost pile, I suppose, but I don't waste a lot of food. So there we go.
Is that one piece going to cook faster?
That one, that's a good question.
We'll find out.
We'll find out,
Experiment.
won't we? Actually, we won't because we won't
I'll
be
report
here
back
long
on the
enough.
next episode.
Okay, so we're going to put that down in there. All right, so again, squash. So now we're going to move on to tomatoes.
All right.
Now I brought a bunch of different kinds of tomatoes for you. We're going to spend some time looking at our cherry tomatoes. Okay. All right, so here's a few different colors of our cherries.
Do you grow a mix, or are those different varieties that you grow?
These are 3 different varieties that we
Okay.
grow. The orange are sun gold, the red are called sweeties, and then the purple are indigo rose. I'm going to just use the gold and the red. I think they cook best. They will also cook much faster than the squash. So if we were doing this, if we were really trying to get this done in the 14 minutes that we have left, we'd put the squash in the oven first. And we will still do that, but we just won't be on camera when we do that. Because the squash are going to cook the slowest, the tomatoes are going to cook the fastest. Okay? So I'm just going to take these, again, one of my skewers.
No cutting necessary?
No cutting necessary.
Or else
I'm going
it's
to throw
on
off the little blossom end, and I'm going to go right in through. Can you see? I don't know if you can see the little, where the stem was. And I'm going to go right in through there. And I'm just going to be fancy, and I'm going to do a gold, red, gold, red. Again, were you expecting something a little bit more exciting than this?
This is exciting.
All
I don't know
right.
what you're talking about.
Okay, good.
Look at me. I'm like,
Where's the
gold, red.
Gold, red. Oh, I screwed up my colors. Okay. Now, I'm going to do that. I'm going to put these here. But I want to show you that you don't necessarily need to do it with just cherries.
Oh, let me
Okay.
check this.
So how are we doing there?
Good. It's
Perfect.
still, I think I'm going to turn up a little bit more, actually.
So these are plum tomatoes. And these are the kinds of tomatoes that have a little bit less juice in them. They're the kinds that people use for salsas and sauces and whatever.
Oh, so they're perfect for
Yeah, they're
this.
perfect for this. Now, I'm going to show you a farmer's secret. You ready?
Yeah,
okay.
please.
So your farmer is probably not going to eat the perfect tomato.
What?
That's probably going to be the one we sell to you and you and you. So this one kind of got a little damaged here, but it's perfectly
is that?
fine. I smashed
a little
it when
soft?
I smashed it when I was putting it into the bucket. So I'm going to show you that
Wow, it's
despite the fact
beautiful.
that it got smashed here, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Okay, so we're going to cut this one. Actually, so I'm going to use one that's a little bit easier. So I'm going to cut this again, pretty much how I cut the patty pan into those size chunks, right? And Grace, do you want to put this on the
Sure.
skewer? Okay, and I always go in the cut end first. And that's
Yes.
through there.
Okay, great, got it.
And while you do that, I will cut a pepper. We've got a bunch of different peppers here. This time of year, you'll start getting purple peppers. You'll start getting, you'll start getting red peppers finally. But I'm just going to cut this green pepper. And I am going to, again, just squeeze it on there. Nothing real fancy.
Just going back to the marinade, we're just waiting for it to come to almost of a boil or simmer.
I would just say a simmer.
Okay.
Okay. I'm cognizant of our time, so I'm going to go a little faster here. All right, I'm going to also use one of these, which is a lovely lime green.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You just take the center out. These have all been washed. These are all grown organically, but just because it's growing organically does not mean it doesn't have dirt on it. And so, you know, I give them a little rinse. Okay, so we've got our peppers. And then we're going to do one more thing. I did bring an eggplant, but only for color. So
Is
the
that
last
normally
thing-
something to cook, though?
You could certainly do
kebab?
that. You could
Will it
certainly do
stay on?
eggplant. Yeah, if you're an eggplant fan, it will. It's got a really nice texture to it. But I decided we weren't going to do that today, and we're going to do our last one. So our last one are some onions.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Thank you. I think so too. These are yellow onions. This time of year, there's also sweet onions, and the red onions will be coming out. It's been a tough year for onions because of all the rain.
Oh, yeah.
Many of us got our onions in late. So the onions are a little smaller than they would be. So all I did, if you buy them at the farmer's market, you'll
Yeah, I was
probably buy
going to
them
say,
with
let's
tops.
talk, because these are not at the grocery store with the greens on them.
No, because these are fresh. These have not been dried. Okay?
And so when you cure them, the greens just wither away. and-
Exactly, exactly. So what I did was I just cut the green off. It's not like a scallion where you can eat the green.
Oh,
The
okay.
green's not flavorful. So I just cut it off right at the bottom.
Okay.
And then I just cut the butt end off. And onions are one of those things that they will fall apart on the skewer. So I'm going to cut it in half because
think this
onions
is-
are many, many, many layers, right?
Yes.
Again, same way. I'm going to cut it in half this way. I'm going to cut it in half that way. One more. This one I might cut into thirds because I realize I'm getting pretty big. And then this you have to be a little careful of. This is why I like my metal skewers, because they go through really nicely, because an onion is multiple layers.
Yes.
So you want to kind of go through the layers if you can. You might crack it. You might not. You might lose some of it. Let's see if I can do one more. I'm losing it. Okay, see the way this one fell apart?
What do you
I would
do?
just put the little one on
Okay.
first, and then the big one on there. It doesn't have to be fancy, right? It doesn't have to look beautiful. Okay, we're going to put that on.
How long have you been growing vegetables, Carol?
I have been growing vegetables my whole life, but that's probably not what you wanted me to say, right? Radical Roots Farm has been in operation for about 9 years.
Wow.
But I was a kid in the suburbs of Long Island that decided that I hated vegetables because I was growing up in the 60s when canned vegetables were all the rage, and I did not like them, and so my grandfather showed me how to grow them. My grandfather from Greece showed
Oh,
me how to
cool.
grow them. So we have now, if we can move aside our mess, we now have here
This is ready
see
too.
it? Our skewers. Now again, remember you could easily make a skewer with one of each, but I prefer to do it this way so they cook on schedule. And so now you're just going to take your brush,
Yay.
and you will brush them as liberally as you want.
Okay.
So just give them a good brushing.
So you just got the gardening bug when you were a kid?
Yeah, I got the gardening bug. I just discovered that I love to be outside. I grew up in the suburbs where we all played outside, but I had this desire to dig in the dirt, and I started doing it when I was young. And the funny story is, we used to have one of those round above ground pools. Again,
Oh, yeah.
very suburbs,
Yep.
right? And when my dad took it down, we had this perfectly round spot, and we took off all the sand, and he let me make that into my garden. So I have
Oh,
one of the
wow.
most beautiful gardens in the neighborhood.
That
yeah.
sounds awesome. Did you have to climb a little ladder to get in there?
No, it was on the ground at this point.
Oh, cool.
So all she's doing right now is she's marinating it so that we will have the flavor of the garlic.
I'm just trying to saturate
Yeah.
as much as this, because
Yeah.
we got a lot of liquid here.
Yeah, we do have a lot of liquid. We probably made more liquid than we need, but because this is broth and butter, you could use this for just about anything tomorrow. Like, let's say we really did make too much if we were making this. I mean, we'd want to make more skewers for our family.
And
But,
it's not good to pour this over top because it would pool and burn and smoke, or?
I like to brush it better because it really does
Gets in all the
pool
glue.
and burn.
Okay.
And what's going to happen is if you do too much pooling, it's going to go underneath the parchment
Ooh,
paper,
and
and you're
then-
going to have a heck of a time.
Yeah,
Okay.
it died for no reason.
Yeah, exactly. Why work that hard? Okay, so she's going to just finish that up.
And you could
I
save
can
this.
smell it. It smells wonderful.
I know it does. And you have the mother from the other one in here too, right? So you could just keep.
I could keep going.
Keep
I mean, I
going.
wouldn't save the broth for that long in the
Okay.
butter. You know, I might use that for when I made my eggs in the morning, or I might do it to, we make a lot of veggie mac and cheese. I might throw it in there. Or
Oh,
something.
yeah,
Put
perfect.
it into my stir fry. Okay.
Does that look saturated
That
enough?
looks beautiful.
Okay.
Can you see that? Okay. So now, thanks to the wonders of television, so what we will be doing is we will be putting this in the oven. So I'm going to have you grab that. But because we planned ahead of time, let me just say one thing before I start. I would not put this in the oven like this. I would start with my squashes. Then I would add my peppers and my onions, and then at the very end, I'd put my tomatoes in.
What's the spacing on time? Like 10 minutes?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't know the answer to that.
Like
Probably 10 minutes,
One
yeah.
song, one favorite?
Right. It really depends on what temperature you cook that at. You
Okay.
can cook it if you've got like
375.
40 minutes, do it at 375. If you've got 30 minutes, do it at 400.
Okay.
If you've got
For the
15 minutes,
zucchini.
do it at 450.
Okay.
Right?
And that's the
higher the
zucchini.
temperature, the
Okay.
faster it's going to cook. So, ready? So we're going to just pretend that we
Change outfits quickly?
exactly. So you can put that in if you want, and you can see what we've got here. So these are cooked. Everything is nice and soft.
Beautiful. Look how they're like falling off the
Yeah,
the
exactly.
bone, as you will.
And if you had made them where every skewer had a little bit of everything, you could place those right on your dinner plate.
Yeah.
But instead, you just kind of pick it up. If all goes well, they fall right off. You might need to help it off a
Yeah,
little
they're
bit.
so easy.
Yeah.
So what would you eat these with?
So I would eat this with, I would put this over either sauteed kale, or I would put this over rice, or I would put this over pasta, or I would put it into a pita bread or a burrito shell or something. The onions are a little hard to get
Yeah.
off.
Oop, the little
Oops, a
wood
little
piece got.
skewer. I would suggest using a fork and not a knife. This is probably not the smartest thing for me to do. And there we go.
That is beautiful. That looks very chefy, Carol, I must
All
say.
right. Did we do good?
Yeah.
All right. So vegetable kebabs a la Radical Roots Farm, 100%, and Plough Farm and Jersey
Yes.
Girls.
Yep.
100% local for.
Awesome.
And in the winter, you can make it with winter vegetables fall vegetables, spring vegetables.
I want to talk
And here
about
we
that
go.
later. Yeah, and tell us where we can get these wonderful vegetables.
So you can get this from any local farm, and the local
But
farms.
your farm,
So
like-
my farm, I'm at Saturday Farmers Market.
Okay, in Rutland,
In
by-
Rutland, in downtown Rutland.
Yep. And you do winter?
We do winter, we do
Okay.
52 weeks a year.
Great.
But again, these vegetables, while they may come from our farm, there's lots of amazing farmers in our community. And so please take advantage of all the great people. in our
Nice, that's
community.
good.
All right.
And there's
I'm gonna
also-
pop
I-
this in my mouth.
Yes, I just want to put in a plug too for, there's still a lot of community garden space available. The Parks Department has built some beautiful community gardens around Rutland, and there's like not a waiting list, which I'm shocked about. So if you want to grow some stuff yourself, like beautiful soil, people take really good care of their beds, and it's like a great way to get into this, so.
Nice, nice. And it's not too late. I mean, we're growing kale. We're putting new kale in, new Swiss chard in, new lettuce in,
Oh,
new carrots
good.
in. So it's not too late to get started.
Yeah, that's a great
Might
thing
be a
to
little
know,
late
too.
to put your onions in, but you could do
Next
okay.
year.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yes, I'm gonna use this because it looks really fun to eat with a
all right.
skewer.
It's delicious. Yeah.
Tastes like summertime.
Summertime. So thank you, Grace, for inviting me and
Yes, thank you so much,
letting me
Carol.
show you the easy way in which you can eat vegetables.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, you guys, for joining us as well. And we'll see you next month with another episode of Local Farmer Everyday Chef.